right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of Thriving Thursday. It's so good to be back. And it's really good to be back with a guest. You all know how excited I am whenever I have a guest because you're not hearing all the time from me, right? I'm really excited to have Toyin with us tonight. And for those who are joining us for the first time, maybe we're like, okay, I'm bumping into this. What's this about? So this is a session that we have that is a version of the regular Thursday sessions we have. Okay, so in the past, we used to meet every Thursday, but we actually transitioned and now we have Thriving Thursdays just twice a month. Now, what do? We have a guest come share with us, or we have a faculty member share a tip that could help you to thrive or to transition, or I would say basically to really be the best version of yourself in any space or season you find yourself in. All right. Now, so on a session like this where we have a guest, we have them talking into all about their own story to thriving, a transformation, a transition, a turning point. But I can tell you that all the stories that we've had on Thriving Stories have always been one with golden nuggets, packed with golden nuggets. And I'll be helping you to pick some out from some of the gist tonight so you would understand what we're talking about. And if you're meeting me for the first time, yes, my name is FolaFayo, but I always tell people who call me FolaFayo. That's the quickest way to find me online. And I am a perception shaper. And what do? I support intentional individuals, especially those in leadership, to thrive and transition to the next level using the Thriving Code. And if you're hearing about the Thriving Code for the first time, you need to go to thepolishedlens.com and get your free download of that incredible 4-pillar tool that you can use over and over again anytime you're transitioning or you want to basically experience some level of thriving in that space that you find yourself in. Okay, so that's just about me. I'm not saying more about me. Tonight is about Toyin and about the stories she has for us today. So thank you, Toyin, for meeting us today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking out time to, be with us here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to an interesting conversation with you.
Incredible. We're looking forward to it as well. So let's meet you, because I don't introduce the guests on Thriving Stories. I don't do that. I always let them have the floor. All right. So you have the floor now. Let's meet you. And as you're introducing yourself to us, we want to get the juicy parts, not just the thing that you always tell that casual person that just meets you at an event, at a party that you are, on the same table with or something. We want to hear something juicy that can make us feel like when we see you tomorrow, we're like, do you remember? We knew each other from this time because we got that gist in. So let's meet you today.
All right. Thank you very much, Coach FolaFayo. Thank you, everyone, for having me tonight. My name is Toyin Aderemi. Okay, so in full, I'm Oluwatoyin Chinazo Aderemi, right? Mixture of Igbo and Yoruba blood is inside me, So I'm a mom of 2 boys. I'm married to a music minister. So I call myself wife of a fine music minister in that sense. That's another story for, another day. Yes, so I work as a training data analyst. I love to see people evolve by learning. I believe that whatever we need to know to move to the next level is just a knowledge away. And that knowledge is in someone. So you have to, of course, connect with people. And so I finished from Obafemi Awolowo University, Great Ife, and I finished from zoology with a 3rd class. I'm proud of it. And, coming to discover myself and go back to for a PGD in management studies, finishing as the best student in my class was another transformation story all the same. But that's beautiful. Am I using any of the degrees now? Oh, I'm not sure. And, so I find myself right now in the HR space. I love to be interested in employee experience, learning and development, like I said earlier, and of course, coaching and mentoring. Okay, so aside that, what do? I love to write. I love to imagine and just put my imaginations to writing or to design. So I find myself on Canva every day, just putting some nuggets in a design and putting it on my WhatsApp status. I'm a functional storyteller. I love to tell stories and make you feel what I'm saying, so that you can relate with it. So summarily, I would say these are the basic things about me. Okay, and guess what? I play tennis. Okay, let me say I used to play tennis because that was how many years ago? Over 10 years ago, I used to be number 3 in those states, and that was in secondary school. But when I got to university, I quit playing tennis just because someone advised me that if you play tennis, you're going to be muscular and nobody will ask you out. Can you imagine? And I just stopped. I could have just been the Nigerian Serena by now. I mean, we look alike now, see. But it's all good. Discovering what we're really meant to do on earth, I think that was a big transformation junction for me. And that's why I enjoy whatever I do today. So in summary, that's Toyin Aderemi.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Wow, that's an interesting one there. I mean, you've not even gone into the other information and gist you're going to be sharing with us today, and I'm already picking out some nuggets. It's good to know that we have a storyteller in the house, though. I like the fact that you talked about the storytelling part. And one of the things that I also try to help our guests to do whenever they join us for sessions is, being able to state clearly what they know to do well. Because that's something that many people still need validation on. Some people have an idea what they enjoy doing, on what they can do, but they've not really come to a place where if they're given the floor to talk about themselves like you have just done right now, they can confidently say, I do this. I do this regularly because I enjoy it. I do it regularly because I do it well. So having you been able to say that, for me, I would let you say that. I would let you know that this is quite commendable. And I don't know how many people tell you that that's quite commendable, being able to actually, openly share about the areas that you're strong or that you're gifted in or that you have worked on. Because for some people, they are concerned if it's not something that is natural. They're like, oh, but it's something that I learned and all of that. But you are telling us this is something that you've discovered with time about yourself and you've been sharpening that area. And I agree. Most of the posts that I actually have seen from you are quite immersive. There are things that you want to go on to the next slide, you want to read the next thing, to read. So I'll just let you know, in case many people are not telling you that, I'm going to let you know that has an effect on people. But then it's also interesting as well that you've said something about voices, because while you're saying that the person was giving you their own fear passed on to you, that you might actually miss the opportunity of having someone who would scope you, want to date you and take it to the next level of marriage, right? It's interesting that sometimes the voices that seem to be casual in our lives and we just make certain decisions on are things that actually are strong. We think that some voices are casual, but we need to start watching the decisions we make based on the casual voices in our lives. Because that's one thing that I'm picking up from what you've said right now, because of course you're saying now that if you didn't quit and you are taking it to the next level and then the next level, you'll have been one of the Williams in Nigeria right now, because there will have been other ladies who will have taken after you. Oh, Toyin Aderemi, I want to be like Toyin Aderemi, So there will have been more, right? But of course, it has also charted you along the paths, some other paths that, God has destined for you and designed for you for now. But that realization that voices do matter, I'm sure today, if someone comes to tell you something similar, you will question it and say, yes, I will walk around it somehow. You probably wouldn't approach it that way. But thank you for sharing that and letting us know. Okay, so let's dig a little bit back into the past for you. All right, so how was growing up for you? Every one of us, when we look back at our growing up times, childhood, we always have some interesting things that we just remember. In fact, sometimes when we are recalling our childhood to someone and that person is a sibling or a friend from secondary school, the person will say, I don't remember that experience. So say, exactly. I don't remember that experience, because for you, for some reason, you held that experience there. So let us know, which experience would you say was a dear one for you growing up, and what makes it so?
Okay, so growing up, I was the only child for over 20 years. And so people felt I would be pampered, but I have a very, very strict dad, like very strict. So he was building an iron lady in me in that sense, tough skin and all of that. So it wasn't pampering for me. It was more of principles and, produce performance, right? So that's how it was for me. And I must say that the fear of my dad instilled small fear of God in me that was able to guide me all through, school, when I was away from home, on campus and all of that. So that was growing up for me. Then, of course, I spent more time in school. I think I have some moments that I really, really love to remember. Okay, so we were in Enugu State, my junior secondary school, and GS3, we were told to, I think there was this writing competition that we were asked to enroll for. It was free. We should just make our submissions. So I just wrote the way I write, ending the last words, making the last words of the lines rhyme in that sense. And I came third. I was shocked, and we were to, read our writings to the whole assembly. You know, Federal Government College, you know how large, and it's mixed school, so guys and girls, you know. And I think I was the only boarder. I was the only boarder that made the top three. So, okay, no, I was the only day student, I think, if I remember well, but I know that that made me look like a superstar in that sense. So I was like, JS3 holidays, I'll come back to SS1 and flaunt my stardom. But fortunately, we had to move from Enugu to Ondo State. So I had to change school, change friends, change everything. I cried, I fell sick. There were no phones for me then. So I had this diary where I wrote their names down and their phone numbers. So that experience was quite memorable for me because it helped me discover this writing I love to do today. And I think the second one was in my next secondary school in Ondo State. One of my teachers, you know, just discovered me and discovered that I was multi-talented, and he really stretched me. I think that's the first or second coach I ever had in my life. You know, back then, I think SS2, SS3. So he would always encourage me, go for debates, go for quiz, go for match past, go for, you know, different things, about 10 things, and I was still doing well in school. So that's experience to discover that, oh, aside writing and aside your cute eyes, which people say, you still have some other things in you that are wonderful. So I began to be aware of myself that okay, I carry a lot of, you know, beautiful skills here and there. So that's whole SS2, SS3 experience was really, really a big deal for me to hold on to, even till now. In fact, I still chatted with my teacher from secondary school a few days ago, and he was telling me beautiful things about myself. I was like, oh, wow, thank you. Thanks for the compliments. It's proud of me, this, that. I said, okay, I'll try. I'll make you proud. And then the last one is, so when I got to school, you know, I told you I finished with third class. With all this, my praise I've given you, you are wondering how I finished with third class. That's another story, you know, but it was 2012 where it was in my extra year. I even had an extra year with third class. You know, it was my extra year. And I was just like, what exactly is good in my life? And I was in that space where I needed reason to keep living. And this is where mentoring and coaching came in and just saved the day for me. And I began to discover what God really had me do here. I began to discover myself and my purpose. And 2012, I must say, is still a year I always refer to, where I was just bombarded with so much light to discover what I ought to be doing here on earth. So those are the childhood memories or younger life memories that I have that I would easily tell.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I think that for anyone who is probably a parent, you've dropped quite some things there. The fact that it took you, because I mean, you would have been writing essays before the competition. You would have been writing regular class essays, but for some reasons, you didn't quite see a comparison of how good you were with others in that space, because maybe you guys just compare scores and that's about it. But, you know, it took the competition revealing to you that you were that good. And I know that sometimes, I don't know, you didn't actually mention if it was a competition you just went in of yourself, or it was a teacher that motivated you, or everybody had to write in the competition. But for me, I just, you know, still see that participating in that revealed to you how good you were. And I mean, I'm not sure I've quite heard that angle before, to think that, you know, because sometimes most of us are waiting for, I don't know, maybe a pointer in different ways on things that we are good in, but just this nugget on the fact that a competition could actually be that opportunity to know how good you are in something. Because sometimes, you know, some people are good with cooking, they're good with maybe making clothes, designing, photography, talking, you know, and they've just not given themselves that shot at that thing to say, let me just give an attempt. So it may not necessarily be a parent, because I know I started by saying, parents, you need to hear this. If your child needs to just, you know, take a part in a competition for two reasons. They could come out one of the best, or they could just have it as a learning experience, but they never lose. You never lose being part of a competition. I know for a long time, I would say I'm not the kind of person that throws myself at competitions. In fact, when growing up, right, I used to love dancing and I was really good at dancing. But when we go to parties, it would take my parents or an uncle or an auntie drag him into the dance floor before I can show myself, right? So if it would take that child of yours to be dragged into that thing to just get that, reconfirmation that this is something you're good in, we need to start getting ourselves open to competitions, being open to that, because it gives you that opportunity to have a comparison shown to you that, do you realize how good you are? Of course, some people say, what if I'm not one of the last? Well, you also learned. You've also learned, right? So that will be an opportunity for you to learn. I like that. And also this drop of mention about being, the only child for 20 years. Wow. That's quite something, right? So to think that you do have a younger sibling now and you are like 18 years plus older than that and all that. So I cannot even imagine what it is like whenever you talk about my little brother, to your friends, and they're like, your little brother or your little baby.
Exactly.
But the fact that your parents did take, that part on their own hands to make sure that you were well raised and disciplined. Because I also had a friend way back in secondary school who was also an only child, and a lot of times when I refer to her, I used to tell my friends who don't, who weren't in my secondary school, that this girl is actually was one of the best academically in my class. Even though she was the only child, she was always the top two all the time in the class, right? And on the corridor, that's in my set, she was always like the top 5. She was that good, and I was like, I didn't know it was possible to have someone that was an only child acing things like that, right? And so it's also good to know that there are also other families that are intentional with their only child, So I just hope that their only child, their only child. I can't say only children, right? Their only child, yeah. But it's good to know that that's possible, because people always feel like, how am I going to swing this? I don't want to miss giving this child the best if this child doesn't have a sibling. But hearing your story is good. But then you started dropping something already about the role of individuals in your life helping you and stretching you and challenging you. And I believe that that's probably one of the things you want us to focus on with your story today, about the roles of certain individuals. And how they have played parts in your turning points, in your transitions and transformation. And we can't wait to hear that story. But just before we go into that story, we want to just hear from you, your own perception of what thriving is. Because I see that at the beginning, when you also introduced yourself, you talked about helping younger people to also thrive in their seasons and all of that. So when you think about thriving generally, when you think about thriving for yourself, when you look at yourself and you think about the areas where you feel you are thriving, what gives you the confidence that thriving is what you've achieved? How do you see thriving, Toyin?
Thank you very much, Ma. So I see thriving as evolving to being better, and I came up with this definition, just having a retrospection and, coming from hindsight, because I've met a lot of people, and I would say most people I've met were just in my life for short seasons. And of course, from your coaching resources, I came to understand what seasons really mean. And I realized that when they see me this year and then they see me in another 2-3 years, they're always saying, oh, you've grown, you've done this, you're now this, oh, you can now do this. And I just felt, it's because, okay, I was probably being intentional. Not probably, I was intentional, about being better in something, because there are many areas of life to get better in probably in the way I talk or the way I pronounce some words. I used to be very, very emotic. Oh my God. So I had to intentionally do all of that. So thriving for me is consistently evolving to be better at something about yourself. That's thriving for me. And I would say, yes, I am thriving because I get a lot of feedback. If you don't give me feedback, I'll ask you questions. What do you think about this? What do you think about how I do this now? I especially, my coaches and my mentors, because of course, aside my spouse and probably my best friend, my coaches and my mentors are the next category of people that know me that well. So I like to ask them, oh, how do I now handle this thing? Do you think I am better? If they say I'm better, I'm thriving. And I want to help people also thrive through their own seasons. I can't help you necessarily in a place I've never been to before, or maybe I don't have someone that's around that space. But because I've been in that space before, and I've, seen the ways we can get better at those things and have better experiences, I love to, gist in, helping people, just dropping one or two things to help people go through each stage of their life, each phase of their life to thrive. Thank you, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I like the mention on the change, because, sometimes it could be easy to miss out the fact that thriving doesn't mean that you don't go through changes. It just means that change is always for the better. And even if things around you change and you also adapt and change, you are still better off in that, circumstance, in that condition. And that could cut across relationships, it could cut across career. But just knowing that there's a change going on there. So I really do like the mention of the word evolve. I know many times on some of your posts, I've seen things about how your zoology is now coming to play in that understanding. That your zoology background is making you appreciate what it means to evolve. And you've talked about, the caterpillar getting into the
butterflies. Thank you, ma'am.
Just like, people are listening. People are actually listening. You just don't know. Maybe a lot of people are not talking, but people are listening. People are reading. People are watching. But I do appreciate that angle. I know we've heard a number of other responses to what thriving could be, and it's why we always ask our guests what thriving could be for them, because what you even define it as in this season could also be different in another season. But today you're telling us that, look, it's about evolving and it's just about being better. So you will be changing, but while you change, it's better, because some people in some relationships, they do change, but it's not for the better. Some people in some careers get into, they do change, but it's not for the better. So if you're not adequately changing for the better in that transition, in that change, then you probably need to check some things. And the feedback, I also like how you said, if you're not getting the feedback, you will ask. You will ask. Yeah. And I don't think it's something many people don't know. I just think it's something many people are not comfortable with, right? People do know that feedback is helpful, but it's not very comfortable to say, how have I been as a friend? How have I been in this situation? Tell me how I'm doing. Nobody really wants to hear that. Everybody just wants to stay cool with how they're doing their stuff. But knowing that when you get feedback, it can help you get a confirmation that you're doing the best you can, and to also see the areas where you can still work on as well. Thank you so much for sharing that. I like that. Okay. All right. Yeah, so Toyin, so usually on Thriving Stories, we usually have guests share with us on their transition, a transformation, or a turning point. And I know for you today, our focus will be on, a solution or a resource that has helped you around turning points in your life. And I know that you will have had different moments when that showed up and where you use it. Which would you say is a most memorable one for you?
Okay. I would say two. I like to do rhymes. So I'll say mentorship and scholarship. So I had to go and check Google for scholarship to be sure that I'm not just blowing wrong things. And to my surprise, I realized that scholarship could also be defined as, the process of acquiring knowledge to learn, to understand something better. And I would really say that mentorship and scholarship helped. Reading books, gathering resources to understand that subject or that problem better so that I can have a better approach to it. And of course, to save me some time and stress, there are people that have gone through that part. I call them mentors, coaches, and templates. So templates are like, for instance, I'm married to a music minister. I have one or two people that are also married to music ministers that have gone ahead of me. So when I know there are some peculiar challenges. So when I'm having those kind of challenges, I run to them because they know exactly how I'm feeling. They know exactly what is happening, and they know the exact solution that I can plug into, my own space. So really, I would say that mentoring and coaching and gathering knowledge has helped me through this season. Right from remember the story I said earlier, secondary school, a teacher becoming a coach to me, helping me discover myself better, helping me balance, sports, competitions, academics, and every other thing. Fast forwarding to 2012, when I needed to just get my head clear, like what exactly am I here for? I couldn't do it alone. I know people will say, Christians will say Holy Spirit will help you, but is it not the person you can hear that you follow? I could not hear anything. I was just hearing my all the F I had. Those are the things, before me. But I needed people that were strong enough to take me by the hand and bring me out of that mess and show me that, look, there is value in you. Okay. Assignments, gathering resources and all of that. So now we're back to scholarship, right? So mentorship and scholarship were two great resources that helped me in these seasons.
All right. So can you tell us your most or your fondest memories around mentorship, an experience around mentorship that you can say, okay, this was what was going on for you, and this was how the mentorship support actually gave you insights or help or the right partnership you required at that time. We want to hear a story around mentorship because, people hear the word mentorship, and they're like mentors, but we want to hear a raw story from you. Can you let us know about something that actually happened once and how a mentor played a significant role for you in that time?
Okay. I would love to talk about relationship, my relationship, and then my marriage. So relationship here is courtship, before we got married and all. So, coming from two different backgrounds and all, we had a lot of issues. Yes, we were in love. Yes, we knew that we were meant for each other. God spoke to us. We heard God. This one, we heard God. I started hearing God, a bit before then and all. So, but we're still having challenges, and I was wondering why. So I had to open up to my mentor that, if God spoke to me, why am I having issues with this person? And she had to guide me, and she's still guiding me, that, okay, this, that, you need to work on this. He needs to work on this. Read this, read that, and all of that. So they have gone through what I'm going through. I like to say that I can't have someone who hasn't gone through what I have identified, guide me. They have to be in that space, either in their present or in their past, to be able to guide me. So I had to plug into that, and step upon step. I remember I broke up with my fiance how many times? More than 10 times I broke up. So I'm not doing again. He only broke up once. And after the last one, I was like, you want to go? I don't go. And I was like, I'm not going. My mentors used to call it escape velocity. I used to love any slightest thing. I would want to escape because I don't like stress. I don't like to be pressed, so I just want to escape. And I had to learn staying power. I still remember my mentor calling it that staying power, staying there to learn the process. As long as nobody is getting hurt, nobody is getting violent. So I had to learn all of that through the help of a mentor, because left to me, I would have escaped like physics. Now, fast forwarding to marriage, being plugged to a family life coach. That was so for me, that second part of the second phase of mentoring was even more beautiful for me, because I felt, so there can be more than one person that sees the same values that I appreciate. And it just made a whole lot of sense to me that, so there are people out there, and people say there are no good mentors. So, but there are good mentors, and there are ways to find them. So I just had to plug to people within my space that, were very reachable and accessible, and then, follow their guides, practical guides and all in marriage. Because the fact that I got it right in relationship doesn't mean you get it right in marriage. Okay. So I just felt I need to be, accountable to these people. Accountability is a word that most people don't like to hear, especially my generation. They don't like it. In fact, they will argue that why should I tell my mentor what is happening in my marriage, or why they call it third party, right? But I have a different perspective to that. I believe that we both have never been married before. This is the first time we're in this ship called marriage. And there are people there that know how to navigate. They know where the iceberg is. They know where, like Titanic now, they know where these things are, and they would tell you, go this way, don't go that way. But they will still leave you with the choice to make. They won't force it on me that, no, you must do this. And for me, that's what I believe mentorship is about, to guide you and open your eyes. They are like shining the light on you, so that you can see that, there's a way there. So that's really the experience I've had, top two experiences I've had in my, before I got married, and of course in marriage.
Wow. Very good there. Very good there. You're dropping some interesting angles for me. Well, for people of faith, I'm not sure if I wanted to miss this out. But she and Toyin mentioning the fact that she started hearing God, and she was led in the direction of the relationship she was in, yet she was facing issues. I know some of us question the decisions we make sometimes, and we're like, is God really in this decision that I've made? Because things are challenging, but to know that sometimes it comes with the terrain. Not because God didn't tell us it was fine for us to go ahead, but because there might be learning opportunities there. There might be change opportunities there, stretch opportunities sometimes, some things we need to stretch on. And that's why God is taking us through such paths and all of that. So thank you for letting us realize that sometimes we could be led into certain things that will still give us a little bit of a shake-up. But the shake-up is for good if we approach it properly. So that was really good. And escape velocity, that's a good terminology there. We probably need to trademark that. Trademark that in the development space, right? And, to realize that this is something that you were doing, but it took someone on the outside to be able to tell you, do you realize you're doing this? And that's really what happens when you work with people outside of you, when you work with coaches and mentors. And I like that word template as well, because they're outside of the frame. I always say it this way: when you're in the picture, when you're in the frame, just like this painting behind me, when you're in the frame, those boats that you're seeing there in that frame behind me, they cannot appreciate the picture because they are in it. And that's what happens when you're dealing with life being in it. It takes someone who is outside of your frame to say, I see this. Do you realize that this is just beside you? And you just also using the analogy of Titanic about the iceberg, and people say, I'm shining the light on this for you. Can you actually see it this way? See it this way? Because when you're in a relationship, for example, emotions are let loose in that space. So you're just seeing through your lenses and thinking through. Somebody who is calmer than you, who is not feeling what you're feeling, will tell you something more objectively. And that's that emphasis on how mentors actually do help us to navigate a season. But something interesting that I picked up from your answer right now is saying that, well, you did have someone who supported you in the courtship stage, but then when you move to marriage, you realize that you might also need to get someone different. Now, sometimes the same mentor can work with you through your transitions, which is good, especially if the person has also been through those stages with you or is aware about what it takes to support someone like you. But it's also fine for you to look into a different person because you work with someone or someone in separate or in different, totally different, work with you courtship time. And then when you got into marriage as well, you work with someone, separately. But the idea is just knowing that you're not really alone. I think what we just need to understand is that if there's someone who is growing, you're in the faith space, you're a believer, and you're growing and you're still getting to a place where you really can stay true to the directions and instruction you're receiving from God on something, you definitely want someone else outside of you who is helping you to feel good about your good decisions, because sometimes we know what a good decision is, but we don't feel good about taking it. And that person outside helps us to feel good enough to say, it's okay to take this decision. You can take a break. You can take a rest. You can go forward. You can keep at it. You can stay there, because you talked about, staying power being something that wasn't a strength for you, but then you realize that this is something you can learn. This is something others are doing, and then you're seeing the results there. And of course, you did talk about value. So I won't go into that now. I just want you to let that be the next response you have towards it. So now you've emphasized how mentorship has played a good part for you. Though, of course, the focus now has been on relationship. And I believe that this also cuts across every area. I know that mentorship has played a good part for me as well. And when I look at the growth that I have had in the work I'm doing, and I would say that my own take on mentorship has been a little bit much more customized because of the way my work is. But I would not say I have learned or I do the things that I do today because I just discovered them by myself. No, it didn't happen that way. I learned a good number of things that I'm doing today from other people. They may not even know that they are mentoring me, but I can tell you that they were mentoring me. I was actively following some people. Yeah. So when you were talking about templates, I get it. Template is, look, this person has gone ahead of you. This is what they are saying works. Why do you want to go and reinvent the wheel, right? Because some of us want to be going through some things, hurdles all the time. All we want to be going through hurdles. Why are you doing it? You want to cut time. There's no time, cut the time, right? Yes. And look into the templates people have put there. So Now let's just look into this mentorship thing, because it seems to be something that has been a key intervention resource for you, intervention solution for you. What are the top 3 challenges that you think a lot of people go through around this mentorship thing? Maybe getting a mentor, or working with a mentor, or identifying a mentor, or even deciding on mentorship, right? What are the top 3 challenges that surround this mentorship space?
All right, Ma, thank you very much, Ma. I would say the one on the list, top on the list, is identifying your own mentor, the mentor that is meant for you. And there's a mentor meant for you, right? There's a mentor meant for every area of your life and every season. Sometimes it could be one mentor for your lifetime, like a life coach. I have that. They're my spiritual parents. Sometimes it could be in one particular area of your life. It could be just family life or finance. It could be career. But I stumbled on a scripture that Paul wrote. I can't remember what book, but it said in a totally different translation. I can't even remember the name of this translation right now. It said, you have one spiritual father, but you can have 10,000 mentors. And I'm like, if Apostle Paul can approve 10,000, that means how many seasons can I have in a lifetime? How many areas of my life can I count? So I just felt, God, give them to me. If this is what will make my life more fulfilled, to the fullest, I don't mind. And so attracting the right mentor is a big challenge most people have. I get questions in my DM and all this, and I like to flaunt my mentors. I put them on my WhatsApp status. People are like, how do you manage 5 mentors, 6 mentors? It's not difficult. I know myself, I know my purpose, I know what I'm here for, and I have my values. I will attract such people to me. They will just easily come my way. God has the way of orchestrating it. No matter where you are, you will find them. And by the time that mentorship relationship starts, of course, it has to be clearly defined from the onset, or maybe not even on the onset, as it could grow into that, it gets better. The second challenge I know I'm aware people have is the fear of being used. So there's this notion that if this person mentor, you will wash plates, you will sweep his house, or you will type 100 pages of documents, or you go and book hall, or you do this, and then they feel that the person is using me and all. But I would rather see that. So from my own experience, I love to talk from three levels: experience, examples, and expositions. From experience and examples and expositions around, I can tell you that thing that you say they are using you, if you approach it as service, you are setting yourself up for greatness. There are some things I might not be able to say, but I know you are aware of many. The kind of people that help me do some things, they're not small boys. They are top people. And looking back, I'm like, thank God I served this person 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Probably that's even the fruits I'm reaping or enjoying now. So you're the perception shaper. It's about perception, perspective. Is it they are using me or I'm serving? And then the third one is, of course, mentor-mentee attraction. People are scared of that, because the truth is, what you really love, that attracted you to your spouse or your partner, some of those things are your mentor as well. That is why they are your mentors. That's why you are willing to be that vulnerable to them and help them, let them guide you to the very details of your life. Now, if, like I said from the beginning, if your boundaries are not set, if the relationship is not defined, and of course, if it's just 2 of you, private is just only 2 of you, you are setting yourself up. I've made my mistakes in the past as well. So I've learned experience, examples, and exposition. As a mentee, there's a way to carry yourself. There's some things you shouldn't say. There's some things you should not do. You can't say you're going for mentoring session or coaching session and you're dressing in a particular way. Tomorrow, you now say your mentor is touching you. You caused it. It's your fault. So there are ways to identify these things. Of course, there are red flags. There are things to identify. But if you can get your own life clear, your vision clear, your goal clear, your purpose clear, and your values mentoring, getting a mentor, having a mentor, attracting a mentor will not be difficult for you. Thank you, ma'am.
Interesting. Obviously, it shows that this is some space that you've gleaned a lot from, for you to be able to quickly, share some of the things that people should be watching out for, the challenges that people, could have. It's interesting to know that, you also mentioned the possibility of having an emotional attraction or having some form of attraction with the person that is supporting you. Because in the truth is, we do get attracted to people that are blessing us and people that are meeting a need in our lives. We do get attracted to them. But being able to, from the onset, establish, boundaries, just knowing that could happen and being as professional as you need to be in that relationship from the beginning could be a watch. I think a holdback for some people is just knowing that, like you said, experience, an example is that maybe the examples they've surrounded themselves with and their own experience has been mostly those mentor things or those mentor relationships just always turn sour. So that's been where they're coming from. So when people have had that, they've seen that maybe with older siblings whose relationships with their mentors didn't quite go well eventually. And they too, they've had mentors who they felt uncomfortable about eventually. There's always a holdback in just allowing people to step into that space for them. So what would you be saying to such a person who is having that struggle today?
Well, it's just like I saw this coming. So I just remembered something my mom told me. So growing up, I didn't have good examples of marriage around me. It's as if everybody around us were having one issue or the other. So I told my mom, I'm not getting married. I'm not interested. Let me go and do career. And she made a statement. She said it in Igbo. So she said that people are dying in war, that soldiers are dying in war, in the war front, doesn't mean that more soldiers will not be deployed to the war front. You have to choose what side you want to end up in. Do you want to end up as a victim or as a victor? And I was like, that's true. There are stories of sour mentoring relationships all around, everywhere, in every culture, every ethnicity, race, color, they are everywhere. And yes, they are discouraging, really. But the fact that some people have a sad story or you have a sad story doesn't mean that should define the rest of your life. I mean, why do we have transformation? Have you identified what could be the trigger? What could be the cause? Are there patterns? Is it from your end? Is it from their end? Have you even gotten your own path clear? Did you have a purpose attached to it from the first place? So there are many questions. Now, I'm already dishing out some things. I'm cooking somewhere. So there are many things that you could ask yourself to solve the problem. It doesn't mean that you would always have I've had some mentorship relationships. And right now I can tell you I'm balling. I'm enjoying my mentors so well. They're just been a blessing to me. So how did I get there? If I could get there, you can get there. You can be one out of that million that can get there and help, many other people get into that space. So there are things that you might need to identify. There might be triggers. There might be cause. There's always a cause and effect, introspection. Sometimes you might even need someone external that might serve as a mentor or a coach as well, or maybe an accountability partner that would help you, identify those things. You work on them and then try again. Of course, take it to God in prayer. I had to take mine to God in prayer. When God showed me what the cause was, I'm like, really? This? And, putting it in place, it will always be a better relationship.
That's so good. That's so good. And it's always good to have the right voices. Again, the right voice, your mom, was one that helped you realize that you still need to stay open to the blessing of mentorship in your life, because she is quite right. And the same thing also happens a lot in marriages, when a lot of people feel like many marriages I know are ending in divorce. Why should I be considering that? A lot of married people are not happy. A lot of my married friends are not happy. Why should I go into that space and all of that? But just realizing that as long as there are some people that are happy, why wouldn't you be one of the lot that would be happy? As long as there are some people that are benefiting from the mentorship relationships that are possible, why wouldn't you be one of those as well? But something you mentioned that I think shouldn't be taken lightly is you saying you need to also look into what could have been the triggers and the trends with the previous ones, and how could you work out for that? Because when you study something, which is really a scientific approach to stuff, when you study stuff and you see that it didn't work right this way, I'm sure that's probably the reason why we have electricity today, or is it the light bulb today? Albert Einstein kept doing it. This is not the right way to do it. This is not the right way to do it. But he kept doing. Now, I'm not saying you should rush from a failed mentorship relationship and looking for another one immediately. You probably need to give yourself a little bit of a break, actually. But just completely cutting off the possibility of having a mentor in your life may not be the way to go. So thank you for that. Is there any other tip, though, that you could also drop that would be helpful for that person who has now, come into a mentorship relationship to say, how can I make the best? Now I think I've spotted a mentor. How can I make the best of this relationship? Just one tip that you could also still drop on that.
Okay. I would say, okay, is from a quote, if the purpose of a thing is not known, there's a possibility for, an abuse. I would like to add to that. If the purpose of a thing is not known and kept in view, the purpose of that thing will be misused. There will definitely be an abuse. So keep your purpose for that mentorship relationship in view. Track it, have someone else, have an accountant. My best friend knows all my mentors. She might not have met them, but she knows all of them. She knows that, okay, this is taking me in this, this person is taking me in that. So you can't do private. There has to still be that third party in that sense, for the sake of, safety within the boundaries, because we are humans. Like one of my coaches would say, we still have flesh, we are still flesh and blood, we still have blood running in our veins. So we must not deceive ourselves. Let's be honest, let's be transparent, let's be sincere with ourselves. Yes. So be sincere. And in case you are finding yourself in that space, number one, be sincere with yourself. Accept it. Tell yourself that I'm feeling this way. If you're married, tell your spouse, as long as there won't be any violence. If you're not comfortable with that, you need an accountability partner. Now, of course, look through your circle or your network. There should be someone that you can trust with such sensitive information. And if you don't have people like that, now we already know where the issue is, your network. You might need to just pause on mentorship and go and check your network. Make new friends, that kind of friends. Or maybe you might even need to go back to check your values. Do you even have values at all? One of my biggest values is transparency. I don't like to put things for my people. If this is the way I'm feeling, I will tell you. And if you're not okay with it, then we work it out. If it cannot work out, that means we're not meant to be. It's as simple as that. So transparency is key. Being sincere with yourself is another very key thing to note. And if you can do that and identify these things, and of course have an accountability partner, even in that mentorship space, keep tracking your progress. If it's a mentor, maybe not a coach, if it's a mentor or a life coach, someone that's going to stay with you like forever. There are people like that. I have 2 or 3 people like that. You have to keep checking that, okay, am I making progress in the thing you were mentoring me on 2 years ago? So am I still overreacting? Am I, if I am, then I have work to do. If I'm not, what next? Because it's always progressive. Like I said, thriving is evolving. There is always something to evolve into. There's always a better and higher version of ourselves. And I like to say, in identifying a mentor as well, when you identify so I like to put it this way, I must have identified my present and my future in your past and your present. If I can't identify that, you can't mentor me. I can't say I want to identify my future in your future. You've not been there. You now want to guide me. It's not possible. Let's not deceive ourselves. So I must see foresight in your hindsight. Nuggets.
Wow. Not get. But I would just say, listen again to that response that Toyin dropped, because I'm not going to lift out all the nuggets, but there's one that I'm going to lift out that I think a lot of people probably miss out of. when they do have this kind of relationships eventually set up, and that is keeping in view and tracking. When you work with a coach, because they are working with you more professionally, there's a way you're actually tracking your progress on your change. But with mentorship, because most times it could be a little bit more informal than when you're in a coaching session with a coach, you might miss that and just be thinking that the relationship is body. So you're not really saying, okay, wait, I got on this relationship with this person because I wanted to change this part of my life, or I wanted to learn this. And so you're not going back to say, oh, I've moved by 20%, or I've moved by 50%, or something has happened, right? And that tracking needs to happen, because if you're tracking and then you're seeing that we've only been having chit chats and things are not happening, then you probably just need to say, maybe this person is just an older friend you enjoy talking to, and you realize that that's not quite the mentor that you want. So you need to really identify what you want, to really know why you are getting to that relationship, the objectives you have in mind, the goals you want to reach, and then keep a track of it. That's fantastic. That is so good. I see that time is running fast on us. But I would want you to take this next one question. Let's take the next one question, but quickly. Has there been any resource in the Polish lens space? Because I know you've been on CEDAR since probably like inception, since our first year. And what would you say has been a resource that has really helped you, maybe with decision making or thriving, or just being a better version of yourself as you evolve? What resource would you say you've looked into so far?
Okay, I would say Thriving Thursdays. So storytelling, in people's stories, I believe that I can identify something that is relatable. Every Thriving Thursday, there is always something about someone's life that is within my space, and they have successfully gone through that. So I just either encourage myself. Sometimes I copy and paste. Sometimes I just keep those people's stories in view. So I would really say the Thriving stories, and of course the Thrive at Home series, because I'm on career break right now, and I have been a stay-home mom twice in the middle of career. So, and you came in at the first time. I didn't take that time seriously. I think when I had my first child, I think he was 4 months old, and then I got a job. I was to resume to work on a Monday, and I reached out to you that, what do I do? How do I go about this? Lagos, this, that. Coming to Lagos is another transition because I came from like Akure or Ife. So, I just checked Google Map and I saw that my office was just 9 minutes away. And you told me to run, like have a dry run of my first day at work. Take your child to school. I think that was on a Wednesday. Take your child to school, wake up early and, drive through the road and everything. I didn't answer you. Let me be honest. I was like, just 9 minutes away. Why should I be stressing myself from Wednesday when something is still Monday? But guess what? Oh, I wish I did that. On Monday, I woke up, got ready. And I felt it's just 9 minutes away. I left the house by 7:30. I got to work. On my first day of work, I got to work by 11. And you can imagine first impression. So I just told myself that, look, you have to plug into people that have been here before. You can't use your life this life is one. You can't use it to practice and experiment. People have done it. So just take the shortcuts and live life. And, you helped me thrive through that season of transitioning from stay-home mom to career mom with a toddler. And then I think I got pregnant again. You were there all through as I evolved. I remember you gave me this big book to read, I read that book over and over. So just still emphasizing the fact that there will always be mentorship and scholarship to help you in life. Thank you, Ma.
All right, incredible. It's interesting to know that, some of the things that we have been intentional to, position out there as resources have really been helping people. And thank you for sharing that feedback with us. All right, interesting. So I know that you've been dropping some hints on mentorship. It looks like something that you've not just experienced, you've done a little bit of research into. All right, so but what, projects are you currently partnering with, working on, that we can probably look into and or wait for patiently to be a part of? We would like to hear about that.
Okay, thank you, Ma. I could mention 3. So what? As a stay-home mom, I have a potty training resource that I developed about 2 years ago during the lockdown. Very soon it will be on Seller. And then I have a book I'm working on. Of course, you can tell what the book is about. It's definitely going to be about these ships we've mentioned, right? Relationships, mentorship. There will be stories. There will be real stories of people. Of course, there will be coded, but these are real stories that people can relate with, and just to help people navigate that season. And that will be next year, 2023. The book is going to be coming out, and we can watch out for it. Yes. Okay, so let me just stay with those two for now.
Lovely. We'll be looking forward to the book for sure, because I can see that it's going to definitely be interesting. If you're someone who has been winning essays since way back secondary school, evolving with the help of mentors, then I can only imagine what work you're going to be bringing out next year. So I'm looking forward to that. And of course, we'll be trying to get the link on this resource you talked about on potty training, because I know that a lot of people are moving into that ship of being, spouses, wives, and wanting to make sure that they raise their kids well at that stage and all of that. So thank you for that. But as we just let you go of today, and we appreciate you so much for being here, what final word would you like to leave for that person who has listened in and stayed all the way till now? What final word would you want to drop today?
Okay, thank you very much, Ma, for having me. Of course, this is always fun having a conversation with you. And yes, it's beautiful. Thank you. So my final word, I'll take you to the course I studied where I had third class, zoology. Identify where you are right now, and no matter where you are, just know that you can always evolve. I love to use the caterpillar, butterfly, moth, illustration. I could be a visual communicator sometimes. As the caterpillar evolves to the larva, to the pupa, to the butterfly, we need to acknowledge, that we have to go through those phases. And even as a butterfly, you still have other phases, you still have other things to do. You still have the flowers to pollinate. You still have the flowers to pollinate. You still have another butterfly to meet. You still have other butterfly friends to fly in the sky with. And while you are evolving, we need to also be mindful of what we are turning out into. I like to say that, do you want to be the beautiful butterfly, or do you want to be the ugly moth? Because they all started as caterpillars, and of course you can't go through this all alone. I know you say you have this natural instinct in you, to know when to break off the cocoon and all, but remember that there are also external factors. There are things that make the butterfly evolve. As one of the external factors that God has blessed us with in life is people that have gone ahead of it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
What deep final words. Okay. And because you have dropped such incredible final words with us, even me, I'm going to just think about it. And wow, there's still an evolving going on. I've not reached my best version yet. There's still a lot of transformation going on there. I can just imagine what my next 5 years FolaFayo, next 10 years FolaFayo is going to look like. Wow, that is so incredible. That's so encouraging. It's good to know that we have just that opportunity, as long as God has blessed us with life, to always to be a better version of ourselves as the days go, as the weeks go, and the months and years and all of that, and just to look out for that. And thank you so much for coming today and sharing your story and dropping all the nuggets. And for everyone who has also watched with us, this replay, because we are having to do a recording for this, thank you. And if you are just listening in maybe weeks after, just give us the hashtag replay, so we know that you didn't get to watch it on the Thursday where we actually shared it live. But thank you everyone for being a part of another session of Thriving Stories, and we look forward to seeing you on more in the future as we bring guests who will be sharing their stories on how they are thriving through a transition, a transformation, or a turning point. God bless you everyone, and stay blessed.
Thank you. Bye everyone. Thank you, Coach FolaFayo.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.